we were pretty confused at that point in time that, where should we spend our times on? And we were like, maybe like, let's just, push through and just put in a paywall on top of that. And after that, probably will not ship anything further. And then we put in a paywall and then we got so much revenues. The kind of revenue projection which I had for the other business for 1 year down the line, that kind of revenues we ended up getting in a week. And then it was super clear to us that if market is telling you they want something, then we are not people to tell them no.
Welcome, Pratyush. First of all, really thank you for you to take out time on a late Friday night, and we are doing this. Thanks for coming on the V Show. I am super pumped by what you have been doing in AI through Merlin, which is your Chrome extension, which have been creating a lot of buzz in the last few months, the kind of growth it has shown. Just for our audience, I think to introduce, Merlin is a Chrome extension which is based on ChatGPT, developed for multiple websites like Wikipedia, YouTube, Google search, and so on to make your browsing experience, your internet experience more productive and more efficient. And I would like to hand over to Pratyush to talk more about Merlin and the mission behind the entire company they are building.
Thanks a lot, Vaibhav, and thanks for inviting me for this podcast. Just for clarity of the audience, we started Merlin primarily because when ChatGPT was launched, we realized that there are a lot of interesting user experiences that can be brought into place using ChatGPT. GPT 3.5 APIs at that point in time. And as we started building, we saw that, there is a great pull from the market for a lot of different kinds of, functionalities which we are building. For example, one of the most popular ones which we have currently is a YouTube summarization tool, which is a sub-product of Merlin. We just put in a small little button of summarize, or small little summarize button on all of your YouTube videos. You can just press it, get a summary with timestamp. If you're ever watching a long podcast like this one, then you can just, click on summarize and, instead of watching the entire thing, you can just watch the 5-minute portion, which is most relevant to you. As a company, what we want to achieve is basically everywhere you go and read, watch, write on software, on any kind of software, whether it be on mobile, whether it be on, laptop or any such device. We want to be there and help you get the best possible user experience of reading, writing, watching. And I think Chrome has been a good starting point for us right now, because I think most of the working professional knowledge workers, as people say, spend almost 70 to 80% of their time on Chrome or Chrome-based browsers, basically on browsers in general. And we thought that let's start with browsers. If we are able to solve for browsers, then we can go on and then solve for a lot of other interesting use cases on mobile, even outside browser on your desktop, and so on and so. So yeah, that's briefly about our company and about our current product, Merlin.
Great. Thank you, Pratyush. I think this defines a clear outline on what Merlin has been doing. And I'll come back to the implementation and to the growth journey and the hacks you might have used to, ensure that you are on the fastest growth trajectory. But even, taking a step back, we mentioned ChatGPT, and just for reiteration and for everyone to be on the same page, ChatGPT is one of the most recent language model, right? And a chat platform released by OpenAI, right? And it is the fastest platform to achieve 100 million users, which is, I guess, 2 months, right?
Almost
2 months, right? So, and literally the world has not been the same afterwards. You are finding use cases of AI now becoming so real in many industries. People are now finding it becoming real. So, I mean, AI has always been in talks, right? AI has been in the picture for more than decades now, right? There have teams like building great stuff in AI, of course, in the greatest companies like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, and so on and so forth, but over the years. And OpenAI recently came with ChatGPT. So what do you think really, led to this sudden explosion, saying that, okay, now everyone can visualize what can be changed in the world? Want you to shed some light and, describe and like, let's discuss on what is the language model, how are people using it, and why it's getting all the attention which it is getting, right?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, Vaibhav, that AI has been in talks for a very long time, and almost all the products which we use on a daily basis, whether it be Gmail, YouTube, anything, right? it's very deeply powered by AI. The algorithms powered by AI. I think what has happened after OpenAI launched ChatGPT is, for the first time, you have seen a consumer product which is so drastically driven by AI itself. Before this, AI was mostly in the backend. It was, this entire movement is similar to what Apple did to personal computers. Computers were always there. It was there in universities. It was there in big companies and banks. But then when Apple came and, brought those computers with a graphic user interface to end customers, then, it started to, explode into ways nobody could have imagined. Similarly, I think Chat UX as a whole ended up, bringing the power of these, sort of large language models, which is basically a new kind of algorithm in the hands of consumers. And the chat interface, which feels much more human to all of us, that sort of ended up, creating relatability with the end user, as well as it ended up creating feedback loop with the model itself, the language model itself. And that sort of, ended up, bringing this entire, AI, product into the mainstream. I think there is still one more other product which has brought AI into mainstream, but nobody realizes it's an AI product, and that is TikTok or all its copycats. But for the first time after ChatGPT came in, we were realized that it's fundamentally the AI is the core USP, not the content or not anything else,
Right.
and it's fundamentally reinforcing in a manner in which how human reinforces their own learning process.
Got it. And I think I was reading this blog, right, and around ChatGPT, and one thing it specifically mentioned about how by the sudden launch of ChatGPT, suddenly there's a lot of supply of intelligence, you can say, which has increased in the world, right? Because now you have a brain which has like so much data on which it is trained, right? And moreover, as you rightly said, of course AI was used and is currently being used in different backends of different products across, but it was never a text-based model, right? It was never so easy that you can just type and say, give me an itinerary to Singapore for 5 days and you will just get the itinerary, because that language model itself was not so accurate or not even widely available, which has recently come now. So that has practically reduced all the boundaries in terms of saying that, okay, you are a developer, you are an engineer, you are a designer, you are a writer, and so on and so forth. Like anyone can, like literally from a fundamental first principle thing, can go and solve a problem, and AI or ChatGPT will help you decide the next steps, will help you learn the new things it can, right? And you don't need to be worried about it. So as an engineer and as a company, moreover, right, how has your experience been developing on ChatGPT? How easy or hard do you think it's in a state currently right now to develop on top of ChatGPT?
Yeah, I think, there are two ways in which, we can articulate it. Are we developing on top of ChatGPT or not? One is like ChatGPT helping you write code, and second is like, developing on top of APIs, ChatGPT APIs or any of their competitor APIs, right? Mostly even on both parts, I think it has been fairly easy. There have not been major challenges, but because like if you use, GPT-4 specifically for, writing code, or most of our team members, in some or the other form, do use either Copilot or ChatGPT website itself for writing some snippets of code, and it has become really fast and really powerful. I think now the time to implement a particular piece of code has sort of shrunken by a drastic amount, because GPT-4 specifically can really structure information up super well, and specifically for more logical problem statement, it's a much better interface to generate code. So this is more on the using Chat GPT or its derivatives like Copilot to use them to write code. I think it has become super easy. On the other side, the APIs in itself are also pretty good, even though there are outages some of the other time. But there are a lot of interesting companies also which are coming on top of OpenAI, for example, LangChain, which are sort of facilitating developers building on top of these APIs. There are other companies like Scale, Vellum, and these other companies, DevTools, which are coming up, which are giving a very good kind of monitoring setup and some kind of infrastructural management on top of ChatGPT APIs. So broadly, the ecosystem is sort of coming up almost at the speed of which the technical evolution is also coming up. So personally, for me as an application developer, or my team as an application development team, we find that both from a API standpoint as well as from an infrastructure standpoint, there's a good amount of work which has already been done or which is being done in the market right now. And our job is more just to, find the best use cases, find the best customer, problems, and then, go on and try to solve them in some other way. This is far easier than, the traditional B2B SaaS, in my opinion, because in traditional B2B SaaS, the pace of evolution was not, measured in weeks. Whereas in this market, even if I see in the dev tooling space on top of, GPT, the dev tools are evolving so fast that, for an application developer, it's the golden period to live in a way.
I also particularly feel coming, from being a coder, developer, software engineer, whatever you call it myself, that suddenly this gives you that multiplier effect in terms of your efforts to get shit done, right? You can build faster, build more efficiently, and you don't have to do all the mundane stuff yourself. And hence, I feel at this point of time, people, and especially developers who will be adopting this, right? With, of course, GitHub Copilot coming in, etc., etc. There's so many things which will just pace up the maturity of your code and your personal skill development as well as an engineer. Now, I keep following GitHub trending topics, and I'm sure you might be looking at them as well. And you'll find every day, like most of the repositories which are trending are, somehow one or other related to the GPT thing, right? It's so booming. Yeah. As a company, right? When you developed Merlin, right? How did you articulate, or how did you find out that, this is the use case which I'll be solving for? And how did that real picture came in? Was it like always that, okay, you were building on some AI model and saying, okay, I'll build an extension for this, because you were anyways doing something on developer productivity? Also, the growth journey Merlin has seen, I would love to understand that.
So I think, like in this domain specifically, we were just in the right place in the right time in a way. Serendipity sort of, took on its own course. I remember, like, when we were sort of, when ChatGPT was just launched, I and my other co-founders, we were just, playing around with ChatGPT on our laptop. I have a Twitter edit myself, so I saw on Twitter that, people are comparing ChatGPT responses with Google responses. And what we realized was that, guys, see, people are already comparing these two things. Why don't we put in a very simple thing? Like, and by the way, just for context, we were previously also developing Chrome extensions. We had made 3 extensions. People are already comparing these two responses. Why don't we make a simple ChatGPT extension, which can, just pull in the Google search and, make a ChatGPT query call and, publish the response which ChatGPT is giving on all your Google searches. So that's when, we launched Google, OpenAI powered Google. It was a very terrible name, but we thought that, let's just launch it off. And within a week, Google became the most, used product which we had ever had until that point. Like, I think we got 600 installs in a week. I practically saw almost all my friends install it, use it. And it was a toy. There was no legitimate deep use case for that. But then that toy was something everyone wanted to play with, because everyone wanted to see whether ChatGPT is giving a good response or whether Google is giving a good response, at least at that point in time. So what ended up happening was that, we lost Google. And then we realized that, guys, it's fun to launch these kind of stuff. So let's just launch a command bar, because, like, our audiences were mainly developers at that point in time. And developers love this command bar interface, like, Raycast or Linear or all these other tools now, all dev tools these days have it, this command K type interface, right? So we thought that, why don't we just launch it? Like, most developers will love it. Will ourselves love it. So we ended up launching it, and it sort of picked off. Early on, it was only mainly used by developers. Then I saw marketers using it, and then practically everyone started to use it. And then there was a point where thinking that, guys, like, what are we doing, right? We had this other analytics business. We could focus on that business, or we there is this thing which is growing off. We were at somewhere about 5,000-6,000 installs. We were pretty confused at that point in time that, where should we spend our times on? And we were like, maybe like, let's just, push through and just put in a paywall on top of that. And after that, probably will not ship anything further. And then we put in a paywall, and then we got so much revenues. The kind of revenue projection which I had for the other business for 1 year down the line, that kind of revenues we ended up getting in a week. And then it was super clear to us that, if market is telling you they want something, then we are not people to tell them no, in a way, right? So that ended up organically, becoming our core thing after a point in time. And then our vision of, like, us being on all the points where anybody reads, writes, or watches, that ended up also evolving, because when we saw, users ask us to, build across different websites or build across even, from browser to mobiles. I have so many users who have been requesting me that, guys, can you please build something for mobile? Or guys, can you please build a desktop app which I can use even outside browser? So it ended up, naturally coming out that, users are requesting this. We like building this. We love our users. I like most of my users because they are so good to me, as well as, they want to pay us. They want to give us feedback. Our users are so nice. I cannot be more grateful about that. Even when users are not nice, they end up giving so detailed feedback that, we ended up still benefiting out of it. So it was a match made in heaven. Our users loved us, so they are pulling us out, and we love them, so we are making things for them. And that's how our vision sort of came up organically in a way. And yeah, I think for us, it was a very natural journey. We did not turn out to make Merlin in the way in which it is currently. I mean, there was a subtle desire in the back end, but then moreover, the way in which things actually turned out was because this market was so rapidly evolving. There were in so much user problems, there's so much user needs. And even right now, if you see, right, even companies at the scale of OpenAI, if you see OpenAI these days is saying that they don't want to train GPT-5 right now. They want to, use GPT-4's capability to build out other stuff and build out other possibilities which can be solved using GPT-4 itself. And that is something which is very empowering. It's almost like this technology is almost like uranium in a way. You know that, you can make bombs out of it, or you can make power plants out of it, or you can make, some other kind of gadgets, right? Now it's up to our imagination on how best we want to utilize this technology and, solve a lot of user problems. And that's why I think the next 6 to 12 months, 24 months is going to be super exciting.
And I think, as you rightly said, right, at this point in time where some people, I think everyone is bullish about what AI can achieve, and in terms of how by inducing a lot of intelligence in the population, right, overall, you can, gain a lot of great outcomes. But how do you ensure that there is a lens of safety and security, not only in terms of data, but also in terms of the usage, which is happening through your application? You as an application developer, as a product owner, how do you ensure that the right kind of security is implemented?
I'll divide the question into 3-4 parts. One part is on the harmful potential of AI in general. Then, what we are doing at Merlin. Then, anybody else's comments or fears on AI. We follow all the policy guidelines which OpenAI has put in for application developers. That is, put in content policy violations. If you even try out, putting in some harmful queries on Merlin, let's say due to violence, nudity, or these kind of stuff, Merlin automatically restricts that because we follow those OpenAI guidelines. There was a time when we did not follow, for a very short period because, OpenAI had just launched an API and it was not something which was so prominent at that point in time. And we saw in queries that, people in, some of these places like Russia and all, they are trying to misuse, AI for some bad purposes. And at that point in time, as soon as we saw it, we ended up putting in all these content policy violations in place. So right now, it's pretty secure. So that is one part. And second is on part of use cases, right? We want to make sure that our use cases are something which are beneficial to the society in general. And it is not something which might be used for identity theft or some other kind of, thing which is, harmful to society. So if you see use cases like, YouTube summarizer, blog summarizer, these are some of the stuff which is actually beneficial for learning and education and these kind of use cases, or even for saving time for working professionals. This is not something using which you can do a lot of identity theft, which is something which companies which are doing video creation or image creation, they are struggling with. A lot of these companies which are using images to create some specific kind of persona or those kind of stuff, they have to manage their entire image repository super well in order to do that. Then again, just in order to make sure that our users, core privacy and security is sort of taken care of, we authenticate practically everything which we do. When we just launched, we did not used to do it. And that ended up, creating a lot of problems because a lot of some specific countries and some specific kind of users, they were, misusing us to, access models and sort of create content which was not something we are aligned with in a way. And so that's why we put in some kind of authentication so that, if we identify that there's some kind of misuse happening from certain countries or certain IDs, we can, block it upfront. Similarly, for our data storage, we make sure that, there is no personal identifiers which are taken from the user. We just take the email ID and directly tag to it, but there's no other kind of tags which are, sort of taken care of. Apart from that, we are also doing SOC compliances and these other stuff. We are in process of getting that. So these are some stuff which we at Merlin are doing. The golden standard or the grand aim is that, with the launch of all these web GPT and, these kind of setup, we would want to, even run queries on the desktop itself. We don't even want to, run queries on our own platform. So maybe like 5 years down the line, that is something which is definitely going to, be the case. Right now, the tech is evolving, so we are, still waiting. But yeah, that's the long-term vision. In the short term, for the greater questions which other folks are asking, right? I think that is something which is good preemptive measure or precautionary measure at this point in time. But it is not something which has been that prominently felt by users while using any of these platforms. And what I have seen, and this is something which I know, because most of my user complaints when anyone complains about Merlin, or when I see people also complain on other platforms, most of my user complaints are not related to AI becoming too intelligent, or AI sort of doing something which they don't like. I think on that part, OpenAI and all these other players are doing a very good job right now. It might become a problem at GPT-6 or GPT-7 or some other level, but I think right now it is sort of overblown. And I think right now the incentives are also sort of not aligned between the people who are complaining about AI becoming too powerful versus like the other people who are using AI. So the right question to ask is like the same question which people asked 40 or 50 years back. If the technology to build nuclear bombs is like proliferating, would you go on and say that guys, don't build nuclear bombs, or would you want to be in a position to get visibility on who is building it, how they are building, and whether they are misusing it or not? So I think the entire policy paradigm which was there for nuclear development and all, that same kind of paradigm should come for AI development. Nobody in a sense is restricted, but then the use is something which is more observed, monitored, and globally controlled in a way.
And I think as any like paradigm or technology also evolves, right, there is a lot of layering which comes into picture. I mean, just to put an analogy here, right, where when the web came in, right, of course people had apprehensions, and then the basic layers were built on web 1, then the security layers came in, network layer came in, and so on and so forth. There will be different layers of security and privacy to handle at least those concerns which will be built. Right. And
Yes.
like, it's good to, of course, see that you are actually building it in real time based on how the feedback is coming or wherever you are finding the need. So that is a good recommendation. Okay. So I think one last but not the least, right, piece which I wanted to discuss with you was around what's your primary advice to people who are now, in this wave of AI and starting AI companies, right? What do you think should be something they should be focusing on based on your share of learnings, and what is something they should be avoiding?
Yeah, I think there's a very good, tagline of this company which Nat Friedman had started. Like, you should put out products, not papers. You should publish things publicly and not on this archive or all these publications. And I think that's the broader advice, which is like, don't do too much in-house research. I think the better thing is to put your research out, make something, even though it is not in the best position to share. You should keep things moving and just ship as much as you can. And that's the best way to avoid bullshit, because a lot many times I have also internally done it, that I knew that okay, this thing might be super cool to launch. We internally had built it, but we did not launch it because we're thinking maybe does it make sense, is it going to be useful? The best way is like, let the market decide. Market is more smarter than us as founders, and even our founding teams and our investors and all think boys or anybody else out there. So let the market decide, and just don't let your own internal critique or internal judgment prevent you from shipping. I think the biggest reason why we are so successful, and the biggest growth hack which we had, because of which we are at this user level, is that we just ship. Like, that's it. There are so many people out there who have same ideas, and there were people who came to me and said that guys, whatever you have built, I exactly have the same thing in my computer. I have made this, and I was like, then it's not my problem that you are not shipping, or it's not your problem that you are not shipping. It's just if we ship, we get users first. If you ship, you get users first. And if we keep on improving, then we will continue to retain users and continue to grow. And if somebody else does that, they will continue to. So I think that is super important, that don't censor your own ideas. Just keep on shipping, let the market decide. And I think most of the time, early on, whenever you ship, you'll get bad feedback, which is okay. We are too scared out of getting bad feedback. Whereas the worst thing in which I was also before is that you get no feedback at all because you're like, you're a nobody.
And
You're
because
what
that
you're
is
yes. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's just the best advice from growth hacking standpoint, from product learning standpoint, from own personal learning and development standpoint is just to ship and let the market decide. Let the market bash you as badly as they can. Because even if they are telling you bad things, that means they care about what you are doing and they want to, use it. But because of your bad product, they were not able to do it. And that's a much better situation to be in. Whenever you solve one of these problems, you become 2x better or 4x better. So just, I think that is the broadly the summary of what we ended up doing and what ended up, giving us so much growth.
absolutely, Yash. Thanks for sharing all your fair share of learnings and failures and experiences to the audience. And I think what we should also be doing is putting out all the resources, right? Which are like, of course, the top common ones in terms of how someone can start reading more about ChatGPT AI, start developing basic applications on top of it, maybe using API wrappers, etc. So we will put those resources in the description box of the video so that people can have it. And I'll also put some GitHub repos. Maybe you can recommend so that people are able to, check that out. But
I think just to sum up on those two bits as well, just GitHub trending repos and Twitter, the AI community specifically on Twitter. These two are the best learning
Correct.
resources because everything else is downstream of this.
Correct.
What's there on GitHub today is going to be in mainstream media in 2 months or 1 month. So that's a broader summary. But yeah, we should put out all the links as well.
Cool, awesome, amazing time spent, Pratyush. I also got clearer in few things myself, which I was pondering upon, and I'm sure I have adopted a better lens to look at AI and GPT, and I'll of course keep pinging you. But thanks for taking out time and doing this, and very impressed by the way your products are impacting and are growing. Right, I'm sure the AI wave is just starting in India, and you are one of the early leaders there. So all the very best. Wish you super luck in building this out, and thanks for taking out to join me on the podcast today.
Thank you, Vaibhav, and all the best to you as well, and all the watchers who are building.